All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Kate Giovanbattista, the founder of Beyond Maine. We're so excited to have you join us for this month's installment, Effective Marketing and Blogging in 15 Minutes with Brian's Trademarked Marketing 345. We're very excited to have him join us today. But before we kind of dive into the content, I wanted to just, for those that are not familiar with Beyond Maine, I wanted to just quickly highlight what we do, right? So we are a technology cooperative platform that really is focused on connecting community and commerce. And so we utilize technology to help support economic development and revitalization by creating hyper-local marketplaces and capabilities for your community and your small businesses. So we view local as not necessarily defined by a geography any longer. So if you want to check out Beyond Maine, feel free to go to beyondmaine.com and you can apply to join as a seller or sign up to shop and start supporting small businesses easily in your community or neighborhood. So why are we all here today? Why do we gather? Well, we really feel strongly that there's definitely components to a successful small business community and also vibrant downtown. And so some of the elements that we tend to focus on when we gather are, just connection. And so we want to foster connection, collaboration, and help each other gather insight and knowledge that we can take forward and act within the communities that we serve. We want to share our learnings and knowledge and opportunities, but also discuss some of the challenges that we all face. And part of our expert guest panelists that we do have join us hopefully address some of those major challenges and give you actionable and tactical insight to help you go forward and make some positive changes. And then collectively, we really all do want to shape the future of our communities and our economies. And so as those, I would say leaders in shop local initiatives or support small initiatives, I think it's really important that we all come together, and just take time to gather, share, and help continue to shape our futures of our main streets everywhere. So a quick rundown of our typical agenda for these monthly calls. We do meet every second Tuesday of each month at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can follow our Eventbrite page or sign up for our newsletters to kind of be notified when those calls and what those topics will entail. We highlight some of the macro and micro trends that we're seeing in the industry, technology or kind of like Main Street retail focused. And Beyond Maine shares their insights and updates around what we're seeing on our marketplace and kind of what we're experiencing. We also have guest speakers like Brian, who's joining us today, that help to kind of elevate our learnings within specific functions. And then finally, at the end, we always leave time for questions and answers. So, if you have them while we're going through our talk today, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can save them to the end because we will leave about 15 minutes for Q&A. So just some general reminders on the Beyond Maine front. We do have one of our partners, Hello Alice, has a wonderful funding center. So if you are a small business that's looking for, funding, opportunity, education, insights, feel free to check out their funding center that is connected through our Beyond Maine marketplace. We will also drop the link in the chat so you can easily access all of their tools and resources. It's a wonderful, wonderful company. And we're really a proud partner of Hello Alice and the efforts that they've put into kind of aggregating funding opportunities for small businesses and educational resources. On Beyond Maine platform, we're really excited. We rolled out a whole host of features the last couple months, and our biggest and best is coming in the next week or so. It's our Shopify integration. So if you are a Shopify-based platform, you can easily plug into Beyond Maine. So stay tuned for that announcement. And we are going to be taking our holiday gift guide submissions. So keep a lookout for opportunities to submit your products and business for our holiday gift guide feature. And also post the call, we will share our YouTube channel with Brian's specific links so that you can play back all this great knowledge you're going to hear. So to kind of tee it up, right? I wanted to kind of highlight a really cool article, some minor research that I noticed coming through on some streaming platforms that I follow. One in particular, Hulu. And I thought this was really interesting that they took the time to kind of gather some of this feedback from their viewers. and, keeping it local, right? And so what they found was that 3 in 4 viewers that were streaming on Hulu would rather shop a small business than a large nationwide store. And when they took a deeper dive into kind of what people were really most focused on supporting, it was things, like clothing, other retail goods, furniture, jewelry, food, obviously, restaurants. And so it was a whole host of things. But what it really tells us is that consumer sentiment is on our side, right? Like people really do want to support their local communities. And no, one second. I'm just gonna let a couple other apologies. All right, I think everyone's in. All right, there we go. Sorry, keep going. So consumer sentiment is really in favor, I think, of any marketing initiatives or any promotional activity that you're going to be enacting for this holiday season. And really, it's showing supporting local is kind of becoming synonymous with a symbol of solidarity, right? You're a good community citizen, right? You support your local small businesses. And so when they took a deeper dive at like the preferred places, again, it was clothing, retail, restaurants, grocery, farmers market related. Those seem to kind of top the list in terms of where consumers prefer to shop local. And some of the top factors that influenced their desire to do this, or their willingness to do it and actually follow through on that desire was, free shipping offers, promotions, and the ability to shop small businesses online. So having an online representation is very important in terms of meeting that desire for a local consumer to actually support on a regular basis or on a more frequent basis than sometimes life or convenience allows. And future behavior looking forward through the pandemic and its hopefully potential end, future behavior was indicating that 74% of consumers plan to continue supporting small businesses after the pandemic concludes. And so we have, I think, a very strong advantage in terms of areas where there is thriving downtowns and business districts, as well as those that want to aim to kind of stand those up for their communities. So we have sentiment on our side. And I love today that we have Brian Ostrowski from Locable here to kind of give us his insights and learning on not just his effective marketing and blogging, through his 15-minute marketing 3-4-5 program, but also his background in kind of working with Main Streets and small businesses for a number of years. So if you didn't get a chance to read a little bit more about Brian's background, but his love of Main Street started when he was, just a kid growing up in the gold rush town of Placerville, California. And this really influenced him throughout his life. What started as an MBA research project at the Washington Foster School of Business to look at the problem of how do you solve for local marketing, right? So Brian set out to kind of find what are the components of a successful local marketing campaign. And that really led to the creation of Locable, which is a online, I'm sure he'll tell you a lot more about it, but it's an online platform that kind of helps communities foster connection, promotions, and advance their marketing efforts in their communities. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to let him take it away. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Kate. And, we coordinated this, but Locable actually is a combination of the words local and lovable. So your last main slide there of local love, that's perfect, right? So yeah, it's great to be here to get to chat with you a bit about Marketing 3-4-5, which of all the work we do with small businesses. Locable is a software platform, and you can sign up for free. I'll tease that a little bit as we go. This is what I like to refer to as a quick course meant to give you an overview of some things you can do, and not necessarily comprehensive, but hopefully takeaways that are actionable. And as I always tell people, growing up in a small town with friends and family who run small businesses, I remember when the internet came around, And they said, look at all these things we can do to market our business. This is great. And then look at all these things we have to do to market our business. This is terrible, right? And so that divide of, or that sense of being overwhelmed has continued to grow with every new channel, with, smartphones and social media, and then another channel and another channel and yet another channel. And so we really wanted to give them a fighting chance. And the good news is, as you'll see today, it's more than a fighting chance. It's just a matter of mobilizing way. So as Kate mentioned, I started this as a research project in business school, and it's been a long, windy journey. I'm always a fan. I'm apparently drawn to using technology to simplify the things we already do. And so my stepbrother actually ran a magazine in my hometown, and I thought, no, if I can help him like him figure out the 2009, the year, then that's good for the community. Plus, they'll be my to figure out how to help small businesses. And I thought it would take 18 months, and it took 8.5 years. So fast forward to today, we have two products. We have a marketing platform and we have a media platform powered by 175 magazines and newspapers around the country. In fact, Kate mentioned she's up in New Jersey. We work with a lot of Jersey. You've probably seen some of that. In 2018, we introduced Marketing 345 and some local connections technology. We call our tools that automates promotion and participation is free. Cool. So I'll mention that a little bit more at the end how that works. But in 2020, I left California on a cross-country trip, teaching a version of what you're going to see today with Main Street chambers and destinations, and we loved it. So we kept going. And so at the moment, I'm in the middle of Tennessee, where I continually play hide and seek with the internet. So if I go robotic, disappear entirely. Don't worry, I'll be back. But hopefully, we'll manage with that. But we've got to see a lot of one. I was a baseball fan, baseball fan, getting to see Field of Dreams. It actually kind of lived up to the hype. So if you haven't been there, I recommend it. But nevertheless, Lookable is a platform that gives you a foundation for your marketing, doing integrations with things. Business, although they just introduced a new brand, Google Profile, something. I can't even remember what it is, but we'll get into that. And we have tools for things like menu builders for restaurants. So when you hit the QR code, you're not downloading a PDF and pinching and zooming. We provide end-to-end contact management, form builders, and in fact, instant contact pages into a contact database, which then helps you collect remote customer reviews. By the way, reviews are good for search engines. We streamline email marketing because it's really powerful but super cumbersome traditionally. And we automate cross promotion, which is kind of our bread and butter. But we also do a bunch of other stuff. We have a membership and association management feature coming down the pike. But all of this to say, what you see today in Marketing 345, we're building our software behind that to implement it, to stream. So if you like Marketing 345, you'll love Lookable. Well, probably not then. So the emphasis of Marketing 345 is really around making people effective at marketing, not experts at marketing. There's all these, courses you can take to be a guru or a ninja or a superstar, and I'm not that. This is about effectiveness. For what it's worth, if you want to become those things, everything we teach is a really, really good place to build from. But we want to make sure that you can run your business, your Main Street, your chamber, and you can do the things you need to do despite all the distractions that go on in your business and the changes happening. So I'm going to run through a quick little agenda, which is to share some of my favorite marketing misconceptions. Simple misunderstandings often cause problems, so we'll address a few of those. I'll share the basics of Marketing 345. The numbers mean something, and then we'll focus on content marketing and then how to create content, how to distribute content, how to do it super quickly, and then I'll wrap up with some stuff on our local connections technology, which turns out plays into. I do want to stress you're getting an overview when we do a workshop. So inclined to host an in-person or virtual one, we actually build a marketing and content plan with each attendee in 2 hours, or more specifically, we guide them and they build it themselves. But this is just kind of the preview. So the first thing I want to stress when I use the word marketing, many of you, even on the recording, hear the word advertising, or at least the idea of advertising. And this is a problem because, as it turns out, marketing is kind of a lot of, right? It's a big umbrella. This is the marketing framework I learned in business school, and I'm not going to run through all the details, but suffice to say, that little thing, this promotion, is pretty much synonymous with advertising. So, the first takeaway I want you to have here is marketing doesn't equal advertising. So if I say I'm going to go to the gym and work out, you might hear you're going to go do bench. Well, bench press is a way to work out and even a way to lift weights, but there's a lot of other things too. That's the marketing to advertising analogy. So advertising isn't marketing. The next thing is I hear people tell me, I've heard this one a lot, I don't need to do marketing or advertising or have a website or whatever because I'm busy. I have lots of business. I heard this a lot before COVID, and then now I'm hearing it again because people don't hire very, very. And so I would regularly ask people, well, what percentage of the jobs that you have are the jobs that you want? Not every customer, not every job is created equal. And I did this little one with a bunch of construction guys years ago, and they all said 30 to 40% is what I really want. The rest I take this. And so I was thinking, more customers, so you don't have to do that stuff I don't want to deal with. Yeah, you can do marketing to attract specific types of customers. And the next, which I think is the most believable lie that we tell ourselves, is I don't have time for marketing. I'm busy. I have lots of plates that I'm spinning. And what this really suggests is that you think time-consuming activity. I got to take time this afternoon. I got to carve off an afternoon, a Sunday, whatever, to do marketing. And that's really not the case. It turns out, however, that when you have a little bit of time, you need to know exactly what to do, and you need to have done it before. This is one of my favorite quotes, one of my favorite guys. If you don't know Peter Drucker, he wrote about marketing and business for like 70 years, passed away a few years ago, but brilliant guy, also author, and so some of it reads a little funny, but basically, he says, we always revert to what we do, which if you're a storekeeper and it's slow, you sweep the floor. You adjust things on the shelves, or you just grab your phone and start scrolling. None of those are particularly productive. I want that time to be the time that people can do their marketing. Show you how to just do it over and over again with a process. Still more will say, I like Facebook, or I'm really good at Instagram, or whatever. Problem is, you don't own these channels. You don't own your audience. You don't own your profile. And the algorithm is always working against you. As the Content Marketing Institute describes it, it is the dark side of the force. It's a little hyperbolic, right? But the idea is it is a rented audience. And I'll take it further and say, you don't want to build your home on rented land, especially when the landlord is this, right? So use social media, but if you live and die by it, sooner than later, you're going to die because of social media. It's just really a matter of time. And then finally, I started my business to bake cakes or build houses or do whatever it is that I do, not to do marketing. People, I think, have this idea that marketing is other thing, that it's like a used car salesman-y stuff. And I want people to realize effective local marketing, sharing your expertise and your passion and your desire for people in just sort of a repeatable way. And that's the outflow of your marketing. I want to stress that marketing is really more important today than it was 20 years ago, because it used to be you could buy an ad in Yellow Pages, flip through and find you. Early on when I started doing these, I said people could scroll through the Yellow Pages, which is being indoctrinated by the little device in our pockets or handbags or whatever, right? So that's not the way it works anymore, right? You're either engaging and the other algorithm likes you and you show up in my feed, or for me, you don't exist. I don't sit there and go, oh, haven't heard from you for a while. Let me go find your Facebook page. Likewise, do a Google search, not for your business. I mean, if I do, I'm find you. But if I do a Google search for catering and you're a restaurant and you don't show up like on the first page, that's it. And so the key is existing. Now, I want to stress paid media, paid advertising, online, offline, et cetera, can be really compelling and valuable, but I don't get into that with any of marketing 3, 4, 5. Again, but again, that foundation convert on any paid media that you would do if you were so inclined. So marketing 3, 4, 5 is a framework and an approach that stands for the 3 reasons any organization is marketing, the 4 reasons people work with you, and the 5 ways they need you. So this idea is that, yes, you are looking for customers. It's a bit more than that, right? You're looking for the ideal customer. Some folks do marketing for team building, both attracting new members, retaining members. Right now, that's a big thing, right? And then to positively impact your community. Every business has their own priorities and it ebbs and flows over time, but pretty much every local business has this combination. So marketing can help you reach these goals. And team building can include things like recognition, community impact, partnerships. I always joke that my daughter there, when she played little a few years ago, had a sponsor, as they all do, but it's not the best billboard because their bodies are little, so we tuck it. The sponsor goes into her pants. You can't really see it, but it was there, and we appreciate it. Do it because it's about supporting the community. Now, people for reasons. I don't list competence. I assume competence is true, but it's not something I can help with. So I'll list the things I can help with. So people work with you because of your experience and your expertise, what we call likability, or how does working with you make me feel? And then values, which is usually manifest in community involvement, right? You love sponsoring high school sports. I really love high school sports. We have an affinity. Now I'm more likely to work with you in some capacity. And the 5 ways people find you, this is where the rubber meets the road. And referrals are best, will always be best. There's things you can do to nudge this forward, but there's a limit. So you have the others. Advertising and promotion is the biggest. You have offline like print, radio, TV, direct mail. You have online like social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, ads, that sort of thing. Email marketing is incredibly valuable. I will take an email subscriber over 10 social followers, 50, maybe 100 social followers, depending on the situation, but it's underutilized. Google, of course, because of all of our devices, and then cross promotion with local connections. So I want people to make better marketing decisions. TikTok's got a lot of attention. Should I be on TikTok? Technically, you should be everywhere, but practically, you've got limits. So you work down the price based on marketing 3, 4, and 5. Most businesses shouldn't be on TikTok, by the way, not worth it. In fact, most businesses, this is going to be controversial, most local businesses shouldn't even bother with Instagram, and we can talk about why that is separately. So at the end of the day, the big takeaway here is that small businesses and communities are outmanaged by bigger, more sophisticated marketing competitors, but you have authenticity and you have relationships, and those are really, really, really unfair advantages. And so everything we do from here out on marketing 3, 4, 5 is about leveraging that, and everything we do in Locable is about leveraging that. So content and distribution is the key to modern marketing. What we're doing here today is a form of that, albeit slightly different than what I'll talk about. But the problem is, when I tell you that you should be blogging for your business, it sounds scary. It sounds like I have to turn off all the noise and have a lot of time, and that's not true. Business blogging, not the same as passion, right? So business blogging is real life, the activities of your business, which means you know what happened. It doesn't have to be long form. You can do a picture and bullet points and just call it a day. But what it does is it demonstrates what makes you unique. Also really inefficient ways to do this. I want to focus on resistance to get the most out. As I like to say, without examples of your business, nobody knows what you're talking about. And without examples that are relevant to me, I don't know. Content is a way to share examples. Now, effective marketing does require a website for a ton of reasons, including the ones listed on your screen, which I won't read to you, but suffice to say, a website that is effective, that you can manage the content for, really, really important. There's lots of ways to do it as a solution, but we're not the only game in town, but ours is pretty good. So I'm going to start with how you distribute content, and then I'll back into create it. So normally, marketing is very fragmented. It's very siloed. And when I say that you need to have a website and you need to blog and do social media and email, I think I'm telling you to do 5 different things because you treat them very differently. And this is tough because, one, you don't have a lot of time, but also it's just cumbersome, right? So this idea of multiple channels can be tricky. So here's the way to approach it. Your website is your home, which you need to have one, but it's your home for any content of consequence. Content of consequence, if someone gets referred to you, you get them to maybe see. If you think to yourself, I'd like to rank on Google for this sort of stuff, content of consequence. It's a selfie at a farmer's market with another business owner, post that straight to social. It's fun, doesn't need to be on your website. Content then social, it gets shared. And these are really distribution channels that put it in front of people, and if they see it and they're interested, they click and they go back. But what's important here is on social, the algorithm does its thing. So only a fraction of the people who could reach do see it, but those who do, you click to your website. Now you hit them with a message. Want to subscribe to a newsletter so you don't miss anything? Not to mine Facebook to your email newsletter, which you do own. And then when you send an email, now that's how email works. So I open it, I click it, I go to your website, and this time it's, hey, share this with your friends. And so you create this process to build sustainability for the future. Our cross-promotional tools, again, briefly introduced at the end, puts you in front of more people through your local connections. Google's looking, and you start to rank higher and more broadly. So this is the really efficient way to do content marketing and distribution. And if you're questioning email, statistically speaking, it's one of the most effective channels, even for young people. And Facebook believes it too, because they build a feature that would help. I don't think it'll be very good, but they believe that it's important. So at the end of the day, you have the choice to be siloed or to be coordinated. And we really want to be coordinated, which means, again, could you do just social? You could, but it's not really more work to get more out of it. So for those of you who aren't as active or looking for new ways, let's talk about how you make this a repeatable process. So we've created a series of templates. Specifically, these are prompt-based templates. So while there's a visual component, the visual piece is the least important. It is all about how do you quickly create content without creativity or great writing skills. And we have it for all sorts of industries. We have it for Main Streets, to get more out of your 4 points, all that sort of thing. And I'll share a quick story. I was needing to blog. I do a lot of blogging. Like a normal business owner, I was super busy, distracted, and couldn't carve off much time. So I go, oh, I should take my own medicine. So I took one of these and I set up my video camera over here to the side, started following. And I was able to create a blog post about a recent project we did in 10 minutes. There's a video that proves it. And so if you're interested in such things, you can see it. But the way this works is pretty simple. A blog post is an article of some sort that lives on your website. It needs to have its own URL, right? So it's unique. You can share it. It can include video. I like videos. Video is more time. So usually people don't start with video. If you do video, you embed it into your website as you see here with some other text so that Google can see it, and everything you share still funnels through your website. And it usually lives feed or multiple feeds on your website so people can find it. So the word blog often means both a single post feed. I'll say blog post for one article and a feed for everything. Creating them can be as simple as answering questions. So I'll use this example. Let's say you're a baker and you want to do a blog post, a recent project. You take a picture of the cake and you just answer these questions. Firstly, what is it? What did you do? Oh, I built a Disney princess cake for a 7-year-old girl who loves Disney princesses. And any special ingredients or she was gluten intolerant, so we did the whatever it is you do to replace gluten. I'm not a baker, but I know it's a thing. And what's unique about it? This is the feel. It heavy? Is it light? Does it float? Does it glow in the dark? Does it smell like oranges, right? You're kind of finding out an experience here. And perhaps you ran into some challenges, like the princess kept trying to fall off. So how you dealt with that. And then what unique skill or experience helped you be successful? I'm now hearkening back to the 4 reasons people work with you, right? So you can give real world examples of my certification or training or experience or whatever. And who was the customer and what did they say? Not only is this a testimonial, when you share this, if it's about me, if it's about me, now I'm going to amplify it. And some of their kids were at the party about who did the cake because they've got a kid with a birthday coming up. Now you're tapping into these audiences. And there's a lot of ways to do this. There's a lot of different topics. And as a community, if you have events, you can do these event articles, which talk about what happened at an event, some fun things, some pictures, some videos, with an out-of-towner and why they came and what they would say to someone else thinking about coming to your town. And you can tap into these markets that are sort of within proximity. So there's just a ton of mileage you can get out of this. You can even do it for hiring and recruiting of employees and volunteers, spotlighting people. That's basically an interview. But as you share these great activities, these great employees or volunteers, you highlight what they did, what they get out of it, right? You're recognizing them. But what's going to happen when you do this? They're going to share it. Their friends are going to share it. The family are going to share it. And oh, by the way, are you interested in working at a place like this? Click here to learn more. And so now you're tapping into their network and driving potential engagement in a way that you never would just by saying, hey, here's a job. Come volunteer. This is a human interest story lives on. Now, as you're creating content, whether it's your website or your blog or whatever, everything should have at least one call to action. This is the hey, next button. And it doesn't really matter to me what it is, whether you want them to buy or call or schedule or come or whatever. Make it really easy. Big buttons, click here, do this. We have a very awesome call to action builder feature coming in the next few weeks. I'm testing it internally now. Super cool to manage these, change them, track them, all that good stuff. Also, it's called the World Wide Web. Well, not really anymore, because we used to call it, because it's a web of links. And so as you see this example to the right, link within your site. If you refer to your catering service, link to your catering page. If you refer to another blog post, link to the blog post. If you refer to someone else, link to their website. These links are really useful for visitors, and Google actually uses them, which means it's good for ranking on Google, which is pretty cool. Also, structure your content for scannability, headers, subheaders, small, short paragraphs, bullet points. People will read, but you got to give them a reason to, so make it easy to scan. Now, we have a ton of resources you can download on how to do this blogging approach with prompts. We have a feature that is going to be coming out here in blogging. So if you like the software voice to text style, that will be available as well. I told you we're building software to make it. Now, people will sometimes say, well, how do people find, how does this appear on my, it's not as though we wake up in the morning and go, can't wait to read what Brian blogged about at Locable. That marketing stuff is entertaining. I mean, I hope it's a little, but it's not the thing that gets you out of bed. So the key is mixing your content into your website contextually. And here's an example from our site. So we're blogging about search engines, social media, customer reviews, cross promotion, websites, local considerations, whatever, right? All these different topics. So we have services like service, and you can go and learn about all the things that we do in our technology, blah, blah, blah. But at the bottom of that page, you will find blog posts, but specifically blog posts about websites, not blog posts about Facebook or cross promotion, but about websites. So you show this content contextually, and so the people on this page should care about that content. And Google is it relevant, so it's good for SEO. So the other example I'll give is if you're a restaurant and you blog about catering, which you totally should, talk about an untapped opportunity for local restaurants, catering jobs. So your catering page at the bottom shows projects. Super easy, super obvious, really, really valuable. If you're asking yourself, does this work? We've created content for Main Street businesses as part of our concierge service. And in the case of Folsom, where our office is, every time we did an article for somebody, it showed up on the first page of Google for the main street when you search for them by name. So this stuff can be really, really compelling and give you a lot of value. I've run through quite a bit pretty quickly. I do want to share that the Marketing 345 book came out just last month. And so if you want to do a deeper dive, in addition to locable.com, the resources we have there, the book is available. You can buy it on Amazon. We also have volume options. So if you want to give it to Merchants Association, it is available for that as well through us. But I want to wrap by talking about cross promotion. This is near and dear to my heart because growing up in a small town, playing sports, we'll put our schedules in the windows of merchants, and I thought that was cool. And I thought more recently, wouldn't it be awesome if a digital version of that idea and the things that people already do to cross promote in real life? That would be cool because they don't really cross promote online because usually the process sucks. And so we wanted to address that by automating cross promotion and content distribution. And we have a bunch of tools that play into this. The calendar and directory are the main attractions. Our job board and volunteer board are super cool. They're the same way. And that is, business gets a bunch of free tools to do their thing on their own website, right? Here's a calendar, Red Buffalo, make it your calendar on your website. It drops right in from Locable. And when you post your event to your website, you can share it to social, share it. It'll go to your downtown. Oh, your chamber, it'll go to your chamber. For you, it'll go to their community calendar. And if you ever change the event, get it everywhere. It's fast, it's easy. The business reaches more people. The community organizations get content automatically without cat herding. It is super awesome. I'm trying to Google my business, and now it shows up on more effectively. And for most small businesses that cross, we found that they will reach more people through their small network than they reach on Facebook. It's usually not, it's free. And of course, they'll still just do Facebook like before. But at the end of the day, the big takeaway is when you cross promote, you get to reach more people automatically for free and help the other businesses or nonprofits you care about reach more people automatically for free. And you look good doing it. It's super easy, not technical, and can be used in relationships that you have. Circle to wrap up, in 345 and local connections. Dorothea's did a blog post using our approach to quickly add to their website. They shared it to email, they shared it to Facebook. Locable, our website, we like them, so we highlight them and we pull in their content and show it on a blog feed. You see that which there. We have a of businesses. When you click into their business, you see that which there. So it does all tie together. Now, we do lots of things to try to help people streamline their marketing and make it easier. We have content and marketing plans for 9 industries. Actually, I will be publishing the 10th shortly. Use them, share them with your friends. It's free. It steps them through how to do it, whether they want to use our technology or not. And we did recently complete a 4-part marketing Main Street webinar series. Turns out the 10th will be the Main Street marketing. We try to do what we can to take this deeper for you. And if you want Marketing 345 so that your merchants can build out their marketing and content plan into our workshop, that is something. So I really appreciate you taking the time to hear from me. The thing I want people to realize is, it is a battle, and community survival, it's a fight for business survival. Marketing is the main battlefield. And while you don't have the weaponry of the bigger competitors, you have authenticity and you have your relationships. And those are powerful ways to help you take back local. So empowered in that process today.
That was awesome, Brian. I will go ahead and open it up for some questions now from the audience. And I'll kind of kick it off, the first one, and then hopefully the audience can come off and ask their question, or if you want to type it, I've got my eyes on the chat. So if you're feeling a little shy, no worries. You can just type your question in the chat and we'll get it answered. Going back to kind of like the first part of your presentation when you were talking about email marketing. Is there I think this is something I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you do too, like frequency.
Yeah,
What is kind of the optimal frequency for a small business specifically? I mean, when you look at big national brands or other large,
yeah,
retail organizations, I mean, they're blasting you daily, sometimes multiple times a day, and it can feel
yeah,
invasive. Whereas, small businesses' advantage, like you said, really is relationships and authenticity and community connection. And so, that I think is sometimes a struggle for small business owners because they have such a great relationship with their consumers. They don't want to be too invasive. So, or disruptive in that, kind of annoying, is a lot of times the word
sure.
here. So like, what do you tell them? Like when you're asked that question around frequency?
Yeah, sure. So you asked one question. I heard three, so I'm going to address all three as I come back. So the first underlying question is your email newsletter is your way to distribute your content. You know, content, whether it's a blog post, events, jobs, whatever. So how frequently should you create content? Well, it's not a creative exercise. So as life happens, right? You have an interesting project, you have an interesting conversation with a customer, that is the blog post, you do it. Sometimes you might do 3 in a day, sometimes you won't do any in a month, just because whatever, right? So first and foremost, your rate of creating content should be about just documenting the things in your life. And if you, what makes it interesting? Well, if you go home after work, spouse or a friend or whatever, and they go, what happened at work today? You go, oh, let me tell you, whatever that thing is, post basically. So that's the first piece. The second piece is sometimes people say, well, I want to email people when I just posted it on social, right? I don't want to do it a bunch of times with the same message. And as I always say, redundancy is good. Redundancy is good. And obviously a really cheesy joke, but it's true. Sometimes we see a message and it's the wrong time. Sometimes I don't see it because, like I said, not everybody sees everything on social. So, don't sweat that so much. So, coming back to the email side, um, it varies. I would say somewhere between once a week and once a month is probably ideal for most business. It's a little bit more, but there's a couple of caveats. One, manage expectations. When someone opts in, tell them what to expect. How often should I expect to hear from you? Ideally, you go further and you have different groups, different interests. Maybe I want news and updates. Maybe I want special offers. Maybe I want events. So if you have different options, maybe you do those each a week. So it's really 3 a week, but it's different types of emails and you can choose what fits. So that begs really a fourth question, which is how do I do this without killing myself? And, at the risk of kind of our new Express email newsletter feature, the way that we built our system is sort of the anti-contact, which is less customization, less features, but you really just roll through and go, oh, I want to share this, I want to share this, I want to share this. And because the data is already in the database, it builds the preview, the title, the description, links. And oh, by the way, you can share your content. You can also share content from folks you support. So Main Streets can quickly grab events from their merchants, boom, 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 boom. It builds it and you can send it literally in 2, 3, 4 minutes. So there's efficient ways to do this is my key takeaway there.
Cool. Very cool. How about questions from the audience? Anybody have any burning marketing questions? We have an expert, guys.
or questions about traveling with 5 kids across the country to visit me, anything's visited about 250 communities so far. So that's been a pretty awesome experience.
Okay, I'll keep rolling with questions if no one wants to ask. What are some of the common challenges you see across all the communities or the small business you work with? I'm just curious, like you have obviously the ability to pattern recognize, right? In working with so many towns. What are some of the common, I mean, I'm sure your technology is likely solving some of these common challenges, but like what have you identified as kind of the basic needs and then how do you help them take that first step into addressing and overcoming that challenge?
Yeah, it's interesting. Every community is unique, but there's so much overlap. And
Mhm.
one of the ones I'll share, and this is particularly for Main Street managers, chamber folks, tourism folks. I think a lot of businesses will say, job to market my business. Not true, right? A business has a responsibility to effectively market themselves. In fact, I call it a moral responsibility, but that's kind of a bigger concept. But the business has a responsibility to market themselves. The Main Street, the chamber, the tourism, they're responsible to amplify that, right? And so the problem so often is herding cats. How do I get information from you? I don't know what you're doing, what your events are, what your classes, what your sales, whatever. And so it just doesn't happen. Or if it does, it's because someone's on staff just running around, just looking for stuff everywhere. So this idea of everyone has a role to play and holding people accountable. If you're going to be on the street, you can't open at 11 and close at 3 every day and do anything to contribute, right? It's just not an acceptable option. So I think managing expectations for businesses, holding people accountable, and recognizing for people who aren't really going to participate. And while you'd love to help them, if they're not willing to help themselves, focus your energy on the people who are participating in the community. I think that's much more community oriented, but there is an accountability piece for small businesses who are coasting or just floundering. The good news is, of course, being effective at marketing isn't as hard as most people think. It's a big reason we're traveling and doing all the things.
So we have a question from Joseph. He says, any advice on content for stories versus posts on social media?
Yeah. So that's by definition, it's categorically an advanced concept in terms of what small businesses do. Most of the businesses that we deal with, it's everything we can do to have a website, post them, share them, right? That's the first milestone. I kind of view some of what we right. It was like, oh, you've got 9,000 steps, go for a walk to get to 10,000. Like, just get off the couch, right? Is step one. It's really important to be mindful that social media in general, right? And if you're looking at it, you see the river flow. But if you turn away, something might flow by, and when you look back, it's gone forever. So that's one of the reasons your website and SEO is so important. Having permanent is really important, so you're not constantly just on the treadmill. Stories are even more of a river. Regular social media, you are playing into the algorithm. So Facebook, Instagram, whoever, as they introduce new features, they sort of cheat more people to see it, and usually not, they kill it or they whatever. But so there is value in playing to these trends or these ads. You have to decide whether, if you have the choice to do some stories, blog posts, and it's like, pick a do the blog post. It may not be as sexy, might not get quite as many engagements in that story. That being said, if you like talking, I like stories, be a really good fit. Just go off the cuff, and then you could always download those and reposition them as a blog post on your site for permanence, right? So, it's for me to say and answer your question in a really concise way. I will say that the guy who runs Instagram said in July, that Instagram is no longer a photo sharing app. It is now an entertainment medium, more like TikTok. Which, if you've grown your fan base by photo sharing, that must be wonderful to hear. By the way, you can still share photos, but the point is they want to take it in that direction. So I think these fads change so fast, it's hard to know one thing. And again, I don't know that it aligns real well with small businesses or communities, because I don't mean this disparagingly. There's sort of a juvenile entertainment factor to stories, which is fun and irreverent, but not necessarily meaningful. So I think, and I'm talking about this, by the way, this is the first time I've got this question, so it's kind of fun to think through. Experiment, see if it resonates, see if anyone cares, even if it, but make sure you got that foundation first, before you spend too much there.
So kind of going back to, I think, like your focus on posts that have longevity, or right, like more quality behind it rather than just like quantity content. Are there is there any advice or tools or things you use that would help like a small business when they're looking to kind of start blogging, or like looking for key SEO words that they need to include in those blogs that as their pages are crawled, they're getting,
Yeah.
higher ranking capabilities or copywriting, like suggestions, like
Yeah.
that's really important to kind of know a basic level of.
Yeah. So there's a ton of tools, but most are, well, frankly, just kind of technical. So my favorite low-tech way to do word research, what should we write about, talk about, how to talk about it, is conversation with customers. If they call you and say, do you do whatever, fill in the, my kids had a dentist recently, right? So you do pediatric dentistry. Well, whatever phrases they use on the phone and in person, you better believe that's what they're asking Google. So think about, do you see any patterns with customers? Do you see any patterns with what people are saying, and incorporate that on your website, maybe your calls to, and of course with your blog post. So that's probably the fastest and easiest thing. If you're a Main Street or destination and people are talking to you and they're like, what are new activities to do in such and such town? Maybe we should do a post about new activities to do, right? So I think just letting real life guide you even works. Search as a starting point.
Can you repeat that? The internet was cutting out just a little bit.
Using real life to guide you is useful for creating content, but also for your initial keyword research as well. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from those who've hung in here with us almost the entire hour? All right. Well, Brian, any final thoughts or things that you feel like weren't mentioned but should be mentioned before we kind of sign off and say goodbye?
Yeah, it's always a lot to cover quickly. The main thing that I'll stress is it's so much more important that you get started and you do some things and that you build a habit. At risk of being a plug, I'll say, 3, 4, 5, the book and the resources we have are really around this. And so often the idea of getting it right the first time, this perfection tendency in the way of progress. I suffer from perfectionism, a lot of people do. And I'll wrap with this quick story of mine as I blog. So I create blog posts, I share it to our followers and so forth. Of course, my mom reads all my stuff. And she'll text me and be like, hey, you have a typo, whatever, you use a word or whatever the things are. And I use grammar stuff sometimes. And so I'll log in and I'll change it and I'll fix it. And I'll text her back talking about it. Looks good to me. I'm teasing her and it's a joke. The point is, unless you got major egg on your face, you can always make updates. Big deal. I regularly go back and I add more stuff to my blog posts. It beefs up SEO. I'll take old blog posts and I'll reshare them. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You're looking for progress and figure out some things as you go. So just get started and see what you can from go.
Cool. All right. I think this is really wonderful advice. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And for everyone, I did put Brian's links so you can stay connected and follow him. But Brian, if there's anywhere else that you want to throw out, feel free to drop it in the chat or mention it now. And I hope that you've made some great new connections today, and we really appreciate your time. All of you.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, everyone have a fabulous week, and we will have another session in December. But given the time period of the year, and I know everyone's really focused on making it happen in the stores, I anticipate it'll probably be a lighter event, but it will be in kind of preparation for 2022, which I can't believe we're saying. But it's going to be our opportunity to talk about what's coming next year and sort of start to think about what we want for our businesses in 2022. So everyone have a wonderful holiday, wonderful Thanksgiving, and thanks for being a part of the Main Street Collective. Bye.